Hey guys, and welcome back to BCM's Online Bible Club.
Or OBC for short.
This week we've been learning about Peter and how he was brave in different situations. He was brave the first day when he made a difficult choice to follow Jesus. He was brave the second day when he walked on water. He was brave the third day when he was called out on a mistake he did. So today what we're going to look at is another time where Peter was brave. Ben, what are you doing?
I'm riding my scooter.
Well, I can see that. But why are you riding a scooter?
Because I'm disappointed.
Oh no, why are you disappointed?
Well, I went to the kitchen, Chris, and I saw a cookie. It looked like a really nice cookie as well. So I picked it up, as any good person would do. I took a bite, thinking, can't wait to taste those good chocolate chips. And you know what? It was raisin cookie. It was a raisin cookie, Chris! I'm disappointed in the cookie industry to allow that abomination. And then my friends ordered lunch, right? They got us a pizza, and I was looking forward to some good pizza. And you know what they got us? You know what they got us, Chris? Pineapple on pizza and ham. And I can't have pineapple, and I'm allergic to ham.
Oh, I love pineapple.
And then I went to get the bus, and I checked the bus times, and I thought the bus times were correct, but the bus driver was late. So I'm disappointed in the bus driver being late, because I had to use my scooter to get here. And now the day's just disappointing.
Well, that is quite the day, Ben. Maybe this will help, because there was a point where Peter was disappointed, and he had to be brave.
Really?
Yeah. Fiona and Kate, can you tell us a bit more about that?
We're thinking about being brave when disappointed. What would you choose? I have a large box, a little heavy box, a nice looking box, or I have a small box, a pretty box. Now what would you choose? Well, maybe you decided to choose the large box, because usually a large box means a large present. So let's have a look. So in this box, I find a magnet, a football magnet. Maybe there's a football ticket to go along with it. There's nothing else in the box. It's empty. So what about the little box? You might have chosen the little box. So let's have a look what's in the little box. And I find there's a £10 note in the little box. So are you disappointed in your choice? We're going to see today how Peter dealt with his disappointments.
Thanks, Kate. Today's story is from John 21, 3 to 12. Being brave when disappointed. Let's get a wee look at the background to today's story. Life must have seemed very dark for the disciples. It was certainly over as they had come to know it these past 3 years or so. All the hope they had, all the miracles they'd seen, the excitement and the buzz, that followed them everywhere they went. But now it was gone. And so was Jesus. He had been crucified, died, and was buried. So today's story, what now? What a disappointment. These guys, including Peter, had given up everything to follow Jesus. Well, Peter decided to go back to do what he did before. He went fishing and some of the others went with him. All night they fished and caught nothing. And as they're coming back to shore, there's a man on the beach and he asks them, "Did you catch anything, guys?" And they said, "No, we never caught one fish." "Throw your nets on the right side of the boat." So they did, and they had a huge haul of fish. And then they realised it's Jesus. Jesus is on the beach cooking fish. Peter jumps out of the boat and he goes the last 300 feet or so in the water. Jesus is already cooking fish for breakfast and he shouts to the disciples in the boat, "Bring in some more fish." They arrive and Jesus is cooking breakfast for them. Remember the last time in our last story? They were having a meal together then too. It was a Passover meal. It was the last supper they had. And now they're having a breakfast. The last time things weren't so good either. They were sad, and this time they've got a bit more hope. Here is Jesus cooking breakfast, sharing food with them. And he says to Peter, "Do you love me, Peter?" And Peter says, "You know I do." And a little while later he said, "Peter, feed my sheep." Well, then he asked Peter a second time, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says, "You know I do. Feed my lambs." And a third time Jesus asked him during this breakfast, "Peter, do you really love me?" And Peter says, "Lord, you know that I love you. Why do you keep asking me that?" Peter was feeling really, really upset that Jesus would doubt the love that he had for him. And Jesus said to him again, "Well, feed my sheep." Jesus confirms to Peter that there's a call on Peter's life. He wanted Peter to be responsible for looking after the people that came to know Jesus, to have a faith in Jesus, to trust in God, to follow a new way of living out your life, not the old way of rules and regulations, a new way of faith and love and trust. You know, Jesus confirmed his calling on Peter's life. Sometimes we can be disappointed with the way things turn out. A bit like if you'd chosen that big box at the start with Kate because you might have thought you were getting a bigger present and there wasn't a decent present in there at all. Sometimes the choices we make leave us a bit disappointed. But when Peter denied knowing Jesus, and he was very sad, his disappointment in himself was obvious. He went back to fishing. Something he knew well, something he knew he could do on his own. When we're disappointed by things we do wrong, remember the story of Peter and how Jesus came back to him and reminded Peter of his love for him. Today Jesus reminds us of that same love. So when our choices disappoint us, when we're disappointed in the things that we choose to do, when things don't work out the way we hoped they would work out, remember the story of Peter. Remember that Jesus restored him. When Peter denied Jesus 3 times, now he had 3 different opportunities to confirm that he loved Jesus. And Jesus confirmed to Peter his love for him too. Jesus will help us when we're disappointed. Like the other days that we've spoke to you, all we have to do is tell him. If we've made a wrong choice, tell him. If we haven't been strong enough and stood up for our faith, tell him. When you're disappointed because things aren't going the way you hoped they would go, tell Jesus and he'll help you through it.
Peter had a great time going fishing today, didn't he? Let's sing together, "I Have Decided."
I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all you do, put him first, and he will lead you on. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. His plan for you is strong and good. We follow and we trust in him. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. Will you come with me to follow Jesus? Will you come with me to follow Jesus? Will you come with me to Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all you do, put Him first, and He will lead you on. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. His plan for you is strong and good. We follow and we trust in Him. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. No turning back, no turning back. No turning back, no turning back. No turning back, no turning back.
Okay guys, welcome to challenge number 4. So, to recap, the points are 2 and 1.
Yeah, but you know, as I said, humble in my points.
He says that on the outside. So, any challenges, try them at home. Yeah, let us know how you get on. However, we do have a challenge today, but I do not have the envelope. Do you have the envelope?
I mean, I thought you had the envelope.
You don't have the envelope?
No, I don't have the envelope.
It'd be really convenient right now to have the envelope.
I mean, it would be, yeah. Smoke bomb!
Where'd they go? Well, that was convenient.
Number 4.
Okay.
What do you know?
Right, here we go. What's it called? That doesn't work. What's it called?
Sweet and sour challenge!
Sweet and sour challenge!
You will be challenged with 2 cups. One will contain sweet, one will contain sour.
Okay,
you will have
makes
to
sense.
choose between the cups. If you get the sweet, you get a point. If you get the sour, you get minus a point.
Ooh, minus points.
You will get 5 attempts to try and win the sweets. However, if you get the sour sweets, you will be forced to eat them. And they are very sour indeed.
I do not like sour sweets. I have a bad feeling.
Yeah, I mean, so I can take them or leave them. Let's go find out. All right, so this is today's challenge. It's the sweet and sour challenge, as I'm liking to call it, which could give you grave disappointment or grave satisfaction. Now, what's going to happen in this game is there will be 2 cups on the floor. One will be filled with my own pinballs, the sweet and tasty chewy treat from my childhood. Lovely. And then the other will have these sour smog balls in it. Super sour, but also chewy. Not a great memory from my childhood. My tongue is very destroyed from these. But hey, we're gonna move past that today for the challenge, for the video. I guess Chris is going to mix them around. I'm gonna face that way while he does it, and we're gonna see which one it is. You done?
Yep.
That is a lot of sours. Show them how many you have. You've got to have 4. So, hold on, wait.
Oh, that's strong. 4 was too much. Yeah.
All right. So that is 1 point to moi. Right, go. Choose them. Anyone. Go. So that is me -1. So I'm 0 right now. And Chris is also on 0. So moving on to the next one, Chris. How do you feel knowing that, as I said, my taste buds are dead, so you are failing from the beginning? Okay, let's see which one I have to get. Let's see which one. Ah! I don't like these. He really does not.
I think I've lost that game already.
Alright, okay, so 2 more rounds. Okay, let's go. Quick. Alright. Choose which one you want, Chris. Choose which one.
I don't like this game.
Why not? Just choose. Oh, that is unlucky. What's up? Oh, okay, I'm fine. I'm gonna turn around. We're gonna see how it goes. Fully turn around. Alright. Make some round for me. Oh, yeah. So much bigger. Okay. Oh, but would you give them to yourself or to me? That is the question. Now, you feel like a person who would put the thing that is going to kill you furthest away from you, but then you would think that I would think that, so you would actually bring it towards you.
Would I?
Ah! Whoa! We both get a point, ladies and gentlemen. What a coincidence.
Okay, I think you won this one. Okay, so 4th challenge down. My least favourite challenge so far.
You are such a wuss.
I do not like those sour sweets at all.
Hey, it's okay. Here you go. Here's another one. Here. So that makes the scores 2 each. And in my victory, honestly, I just feel great. Next up, we've got the cereal story, which is getting tense, man. I cannot wait to see what happens next. But until then, I'm going to keep feeding Chris here. So cut to stand. Just cut. You can't take it.
They were brought down to the camp and introduced to Carlos. Jenny thought he had the look of a leader about him, but when she looked into his eyes, all she could see was hatred. Uncle Pete was there as well and seemed to be okay, but he was tied up. Steve talked to Carlos and said, "Carlos, don't you realize the danger you're in? If that volcano blows like it's threatened to do, the mud and the water will come right down this valley. We're in danger. We must move to higher ground." Carlos looked at him and said, "We will move in the morning," and then tied the 3 of them up and put them in a tent. Later on, Estrella came into the tent carrying some blankets. "Here, this will keep you warm for the night," she said. I'm sorry that I brought you here, but they made me do it. I had no way I could get out of it." Justin found it hard to forgive this time. You Americans, you're all the same. You always let us down. You said you would forgive, and you won't forgive. You just end up deserting us. As she turned to leave, Steve said, "I know what happened to your father." She stopped in her tracks and turned round. "What do you know about my father?" "Well," he said, "I went to the immigration authorities and I found out that he had travelled to the States just like you said. But what you don't know was he was involved in a road accident in which he died. And nobody that was looking after the road accident, the authorities there, they didn't know anything about you or your mother or his family here in Colombia. And so he couldn't tell you because he was dead, and they didn't know, and so they couldn't tell you. That's why you never heard anything. He didn't desert you. He died. Tears began to run down the face of that Colombian girl. I have hated him for so long because he deserted us, and he didn't desert us. She left in tears. Steve waited till they were all asleep. Then he slipped off the ropes that were holding him, and after checking that the coast was clear, slipped out the back of the tent to go and bring some help. In the morning, when they found that Steve was gone, the atmosphere became very tense. There was a lot of shouting outside the tent. Carlos blamed Uncle Pete, but he said he was sleeping at the time and he didn't know where Steve had gone. Justin and Jenny decided to pray, and they prayed for themselves that they might be protected, and they prayed for those that were holding them, that they might be forgiven. Estreyu came into the tent and untied them and allowed them to get a wash in the stream and to eat some food. By the time they had finished, the guerrillas had packed up the camp, and the ground and everything else was covered in white ash from the volcano. The guerrillas then made their way up to higher ground, but instead of taking the three with them, they tied them to a tree and left them to die in the coming flood. Estreyu protested to Carlos, but he just grabbed her and dragged her off up the path with him, and so they were left there. They could hear the sound of the volcano as it was erupting. They could hear the sound of crashing trees as the water was pouring down the mountain. They knew their time was only limited when the water would come down the canyon that they were in. Justin bowed his head and asked God for a miracle. When he looked up, God had already sent the miracle. Estreyu was already cutting the ropes that held Jenny and set her free, and then his uncle, and then himself. And the four of them began to head up the side of the mountain onto higher ground, onto a safer place to be. Uncle Pete and Jenny climbed ahead, and Justin and Estreyu followed behind. They got to one point when Justin lost his footing and slid back down a little. When Estreyu got to the same bit, she slipped as well, only caught her foot in the root of a tree and couldn't get it back out again. Justin could hear the water coming and thought, I need to keep going, but I can't leave her. And so he went back down and helped her release her foot, and then gave her a push back up the mountain, and then started to climb himself, but was too slow. The water came and caught him, first to his ankles, then to his knees, and then it just tore him away off the side of the mountain, and he was left swimming and struggling in the water. There was nothing he could do. He raised up his arm for somebody to grab it, and then it all became black.
Wow! What was that?
We just got swept away, Chris, much like Justin in the story.
What a serial story.
What a serial story, guys.
Yeah, that's all I've got to say.
Can't wait till next
tomorrow.
story.
Next tomorrow.
Next tomorrow. Another name for tomorrow.
Okay, swiftly moving on. Guess what we have? We have
And so what we have learned applies to our lives today. God has a lot to say in his book. Go on.
We have a minute
And so what
verse.
we have learned applies to our lives today. God has a lot to say. Let's take Luke. That's what you say, Chris.
What's the book we're looking at, Ben?
What is it, Chris? You tell me. It's Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. 1-1. 1-1.
So, Jeremiah 29, verse 11. If you remember the last 2 days, we were looking at the first part, and then we looked at the second part.
What was the first part,
The
Chris?
first part says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord."
And the second part is for good and not for disaster.
Have you forgotten the verse, Ben?
I have
It
forgotten
says,
it.
"They are plans for good and not for
they are
disaster."
plans for good and not for disaster.
So we're going to put both those up on the screen, and let's see if we can say it all together. So it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster." Well done. If you got that, that's good. That's well done. Okay, let's try it again. This time we're going to take out a couple of words on those two sections, okay? So, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster." Good, okay. So today what I want to do is finish off the verse. So Ben, what does it say?
Let's find out. The last part of the verse says, to give you a future and a hope.
To give you a future and a hope. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
So, we're going to, whilst Ben looks this up, we're going to put the last bit on the screen. To give you a future and a hope.
I was just double checking my answer, Chris. It's always good to double check.
So let's put that up, and we're going to take away some words and see if you can get it. Ready?
Ready?
To give you
a
future
sure.
and a hope.
A hope.
Did you get that? Okay, so that is the memory verse. See if you can remember each of those sections. What we're going to do is we're going to come back tomorrow and try and put everything together.
Everything.
Everything.
The whole thing.
Everything,
Chris.
the whole thing.
I don't know if I can do that.
Well, you better get studying. So, what a day we've had. Isn't that right, Ben?
Yeah, it's been good, yeah.
What a day we've had. Fiona and Kate, tell us the story.
Yeah, we did a sour sweets challenge. My mouth is fine, but
I did not
You
like
seem to have a
those
problem with
sweets.
sour sweets.
And
Whatever
it
is.
ended up with Ben winning the point, meaning it is 2-2. However, we still have one more challenge. One more challenge.
It's the decider.
Well, who do you think's going to win? How votes?
It could be anyone. Could be me. Could be you.
Find out tomorrow.
Same time.
Same place.
Same OBC.
See you guys.
See ya.
Have you studied? No, right, okay, let's check it. Hey! You got studying
Yeah, this one I'm reading.
in your hand.
Hmm?
Oh. Wait.
Are they still here?
Yeah, I think they're still watching.
You can go home. I mean, you already are home, but
I'm going home.